Close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and just listen. This message is not random. You are here for a reason. Maybe your mind has been restless lately, constantly thinking, constantly analyzing, constantly replaying situations over and over again. You think about every decision, every conversation, every possible outcome. You ask yourself, what if I fail? What if things go wrong? What if I lose everything? And without even realizing it, overthinking slowly becomes a habit, then a pattern, and eventually it becomes your reality. Your mind does not stop. Even when your body is tired, your thoughts keep going. Even when you want peace, your mind keeps searching. It keeps trying to solve problems that have not even happened yet. And that constant mental noise begins to drain you. It steals your peace. It steals your sleep. It steals your ability to enjoy the present moment. Because instead of living in what is happening now, you are stuck between a past you cannot change and a future you cannot control. And that is where anxiety begins to grow. But here is something important you need to understand. You were never meant to carry all of this on your own. The weight you are holding, the pressure you are feeling, the need to control everything. It was never yours to carry. You try to control every outcome, every possibility, every situation. But the truth is, control is an illusion. The more you try to control everything, the more overwhelmed you become. Because deep down, you know that you cannot control it all. And that is where faith begins. Faith begins at the moment you realize that you cannot do everything by yourself. It begins when you stop trying to hold everything together and start trusting God to take over. Because there is a God who sees everything you are going through. He understands your fears, your worries, your silent struggles. Even the things you never say out loud, He already knows. He sees the nights when you cannot sleep. He sees the moments when your mind will not stop. He sees the weight you are carrying, even when no one else notices. And right now, He is telling you something simple, but powerful. Let it go. Give it to Him, but letting go feels difficult. It feels uncertain. It feels like losing control. And that is why you hesitate, because holding on feels safer even if it is hurting you. But what if the thing you are holding on to is the very thing that is stealing your peace? What if letting go is not losing control, but actually gaining peace? You keep replaying the past, thinking about what you could have done differently, what you should have said, what you wish had gone another way. But no amount of thinking will change what has already happened. And then your mind jumps to the future, creating scenarios, imagining problems, preparing for things that may never even happen. And in doing that, you exhaust yourself for no reason. You become trapped between what was and what might be, forgetting to live in what is. But God is not found in your overthinking. He is found in your surrender. The moment you say, I cannot do this alone. I need you, something begins to change inside you. Not necessarily around you right away, but within you. Because peace does not come from having all the answers. Peace comes from trusting the one who already knows. So right now, take a moment and breathe. And in your heart, say this, God, I give this to you, my worries, my fears, my confusion. I do not understand everything, but I trust you. Let those words settle inside you. Because surrender is not weakness, It is strength. It takes strength to stop trying to control everything. It takes strength to release what you cannot handle. It takes strength to trust when things are uncertain. You do not need to have everything figured out today. You do not need all the answers right now. You just need faith for this moment. Because even when you cannot see it, God is already working. Behind the scenes, in ways you cannot understand, things are being aligned, doors are being opened, and paths are being prepared. Every delay, every confusion, every closed door, it all has a purpose. So instead of exhausting your mind trying to solve everything, allow your heart to rest in God. Because when you give it to Him, you are not losing control, you are finding peace. And that peace is what you have been searching for all along. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones no one else can see. You smile in front of people and act like everything is fine, but inside your mind is loud, restless, and completely exhausted. You think about things that haven't even happened yet, and somehow they still hurt you as if they were real. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You prepare yourself for pain. You expect disappointment before anything even begins. And without realizing it, you slowly begin to live in fear, not because something bad is actually happening, but because something bad might happen. That is what overthinking does. It creates storms inside a calm reality. Because of this, you start losing your ability to enjoy the present moment. Even when things are going okay, your mind whispers, "What if it doesn't last?" You can't relax. You can't rest. You can't feel peace because your thoughts never stop moving. But listen carefully. You are not your thoughts. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you are in danger. Your mind can lie to you. It can replay negativity, exaggerate problems, and make small situations feel overwhelming. If you don't take control, your thoughts will control you. But here is the truth: you don't overcome overthinking by thinking more. You overcome it by surrendering, by stepping out of your mind and stepping into faith. Faith silences what logic cannot. Faith says, even if I don't understand, even if I can't see the outcome, I still trust God. And that kind of trust changes everything. Right now, you are trying to figure everything out before anything even happens. You want guarantees, certainty, and answers. But life doesn't work that way. God doesn't reveal the whole plan at once. He gives you just enough light for the next step, not the whole staircase, just the next step. Because if you saw everything, you wouldn't need faith. And without faith, you would never grow. So maybe the uncertainty you feel is not a problem. Maybe it's a process. A process designed to teach you to trust God more deeply. Real peace is not found in knowing everything. Real peace is found in trusting God in everything. Think about this. How many times have you worried about something that never even happened? How many nights have you lost sleep over situations that ended up being fine? How much energy have you wasted on fear that was never real? And yet, here you are still holding on, still overthinking, still carrying everything on your own. But what if today you made a different choice? What if today you stopped feeding your fears and started feeding your faith? Because whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on fear, fear grows. If you focus on problems, problems grow. But if you focus on God, faith grows, peace grows, strength grows. So shift your focus. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong? Start asking, what if God is working everything out? What if this situation is leading me to something better? What if I'm being protected from something I cannot see? That simple shift can change your entire mindset. Because now you are not expecting fear, you are expecting faith. God is not confused about your life. He is not surprised by your struggles. He is not worried about your future. So why are you? If the one who controls everything is at peace, then maybe you can be too. But it starts with one decision: to let go, to release the pressure, to stop trying to carry everything on your own, and to finally say, God, I trust you, not just when things make sense, but especially when they don't, because that is real faith. Faith is not believing when everything is clear. Faith is believing when everything is uncertain. Right now, whatever is on your mind, whatever is weighing on your heart, imagine placing it in God's hands. Every worry, every fear, every unanswered question, give it to Him. You don't need to hold it anymore. You don't need to solve everything tonight. You don't need to figure it all out. Just rest, because God is already working, even in the silence, even in the waiting. Even when you don't see anything changing, He is moving, and at the right time, everything will make sense. Until then, trust. Let go and give it to God. There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, when the path ahead is unclear, and no matter how hard you try, you cannot seem to quiet your mind. You keep searching for answers, looking for signs, trying to make sense of everything happening around you. But the more you search, the more overwhelmed you become. The more you think, the more confused you feel. Overthinking convinces you that you need to have everything figured out right now. It tells you that if you just think a little longer, analyze a little deeper, or plan a little better, you will finally feel at peace. But that peace never comes, because overthinking is not solving your problems, it is multiplying them. You begin to question everything. Your decisions, your future, your relationships, even your own worth. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you said the wrong thing. You imagine outcomes that haven't happened and start believing they are real. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose confidence in yourself. But here is something you need to understand. Confusion is not always a sign that you are lost. Sometimes confusion is a sign that God is working in ways you cannot yet understand. Just because you don't see the full picture doesn't mean there is no plan. God does not operate on your timeline. He does not rush the process just because you feel uncomfortable. There are things happening behind the scenes that you cannot see, things being aligned, doors being opened, and even doors being closed for your protection. And while you are trying to force clarity, God may be asking you to trust Him in the uncertainty, because trust is not built when everything is easy. Trust is built in the waiting, in the silence, and in the moments when you have no choice but to rely on Him. You may not realize it now, but some of the delays in your life are actually blessings in disguise. Some of the things that didn't work out were not meant to work out. Some of the paths that closed were not meant for you to walk on. And one day you will look back and understand why. But right now, your mind is too busy trying to control everything to see that truth. You are trying to force outcomes, rushing decisions, and exhausting yourself mentally. And all of that pressure is taking away your peace. God never asked you to carry that kind of weight. He never asked you to figure everything out on your own. He never asked you to control every detail of your life. What he asks is simple trust him. Trust him when things don't make sense. Trust him when doors close. Trust him when you feel lost. Trust him when the answers don't come immediately. Because faith is not about having clarity, it is about having confidence in God even when clarity is missing. Think about how much lighter your life would feel if you truly let go. If you stopped trying to control every situation, stopped overanalyzing every outcome, and simply allowed things to unfold the way they are meant to. Imagine the peace you would feel if you trusted that everything happening in your life is part of a bigger plan. That kind of peace is available to you, but you have to choose it. You have to choose to release the constant need to understand everything. You have to choose to stop feeding your doubts and start strengthening your faith. Because the truth is, overthinking keeps you stuck. It keeps you in a cycle of fear, doubt, and hesitation. It stops you from moving forward because you are too busy trying to predict every possible outcome. But life was never meant to be predicted. It was meant to be lived with faith. So instead of trying to control every step, take one step at a time and trust God with the rest. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" start asking, "What if God leads me exactly where I need to be?" Because He will. God is not distant from your struggles. He is not unaware of your thoughts. He knows every fear that crosses your mind, every doubt that fills your heart, and every question you cannot answer. And even then, He is still guiding you. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, something is happening. Even when it feels like you are stuck, you are being positioned. Even when it feels like you are waiting, you are being prepared. So stop rushing the process. Stop trying to force clarity. Stop overwhelming your mind with questions that don't need answers right now. Instead, breathe, slow down, and remind yourself that you are not alone in this. God is with you in every moment, in your confusion, in your waiting, in your uncertainty, and He is leading you step by step, even when you cannot see the path ahead. All you have to do is trust Him enough to let go. Let go of the pressure. Let go of the fear. Let go of the need to control everything. And give it to God. Because when you finally release what was never yours to carry, you make room for something greater peace, clarity, and a deeper faith than you have ever known. And that is where your true strength begins. There comes a point where your mind feels completely drained, where you have thought about the same things so many times that even your own thoughts start to feel heavy. You try to find solutions, you try to make sense of everything, but instead of clarity, you feel even more overwhelmed. It's like being stuck in a loop that never ends. Overthinking does that. It traps you in repetition. The same worries, the same fears, the same questions playing over and over again in your mind. And no matter how much time you spend thinking, nothing really changes. The situation stays the same, but your peace slowly disappears. What makes it even harder is that you start believing that thinking more will somehow fix everything. You tell yourself that if you just figure it out, if you just analyze it one more time, you'll finally feel better. But instead you feel more tired, more anxious, and more disconnected from the present moment. The truth is, your mind was never designed to carry this much weight. You were not created to solve every problem in one night or to control every detail of your life. There are limits to what you can understand, and there are things that only God can handle. And that is where surrender becomes necessary. Surrender is not about giving up. It is not about being weak or careless. It is about recognizing that you have reached the limit of your own understanding and choosing to trust God beyond that limit. It is about releasing the pressure you have been putting on yourself and allowing God to take control. Because the more you hold on, the heavier it feels, and the more you try to control, the more anxious you become. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. But when you open your hands, when you let go, something changes. You are no longer fighting. You are no longer resisting. You are allowing things to be placed in the hands of someone greater than you. That is where peace begins. Peace does not come from solving every problem. It comes from trusting that God already has the solution. It comes from knowing that even if you don't understand what is happening, there is still a purpose behind it. You may not see it right now. You may not feel it yet. But that does not mean God is not working. Some of the most important things in life happen quietly, without immediate signs or visible progress. Growth happens in silence. Healing happens in silence. Transformation happens in silence. And while you are overthinking, you may be missing the quiet work that God is doing in your life. You may be so focused on what is not happening that you fail to see what is happening beneath the surface. Sometimes God slows things down on purpose, not to frustrate you, but to prepare you, not to confuse you, but to strengthen you. Because if everything came easily and instantly, you would never develop the faith you need for what lies ahead. So instead of seeing delays as problems, start seeing them as preparation. Instead of seeing uncertainty as a threat, start seeing it as an opportunity to trust more deeply. You don't need to have everything figured out today. You don't need to know how everything will turn out. You don't need to carry the burden of tomorrow while you are still living today. Right now, in this moment, you are enough. And this moment is enough. When your mind starts racing again, when the thoughts begin to spiral, remind yourself of this truth. You have a choice. You can continue to hold on and feel the weight, or you can release it and find peace. And releasing it doesn't mean your problems instantly disappear. It means they are no longer controlling you. It means you are choosing faith over fear, trust over anxiety, and peace over pressure. God is not asking you to understand everything. He is asking you to trust Him with everything. So take a deep breath, slow your thoughts, and remind yourself that you are not alone in this journey. Every step you take, God is already ahead of you. Every situation you face, He already knows the outcome. Every worry that fills your mind, He already has the answer. All you have to do is stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Let go of the endless questions. Let go of the constant need for control. Let go of the fear of the unknown, and place it all in God's hands. Because when you do, something powerful happens. your mind begins to quiet, your heart begins to rest, and your spirit begins to feel a sense of peace that cannot be explained. That peace is not based on your circumstances. It is based on your trust in God. And once you experience that kind of peace, you realize something important. You don't need to have all the answers to feel calm. You just need to know the one who does. So release it. Trust Him and give it to God. There are nights when your mind refuses to rest, when your body is tired but your thoughts keep running, replaying everything that happened during the day and worrying about everything that could happen tomorrow. You lie there in silence, staring into the darkness, hoping for peace, but instead your mind becomes louder. In those moments, overthinking feels impossible to escape. Every small concern turns into something bigger. Every unanswered question feels urgent, and every uncertainty begins to feel like a problem that must be solved right now. But the more you try to solve it, the more restless you become. You begin to feel like if you don't figure it out, something will go wrong. Like your thoughts are somehow protecting you, preparing you, keeping you in control. But in reality, they are only draining you. They are taking your energy, your focus, and your peace. The truth is, not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your belief. Just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it has authority over you. You have the power to choose what you focus on, and that choice is where your freedom begins, because overthinking survives on attention. The more you engage with it, the stronger it becomes. The more you analyze it, the deeper it pulls you in. But when you begin to step back, when you stop reacting to every thought, you create space for calm, space for clarity, and space for faith. That space is where God can meet you. God does not speak through chaos and constant noise. He speaks in stillness. He speaks in quiet moments, in calm hearts, and in minds that are willing to slow down and listen. There are moments when overthinking doesn't just exhaust your mind. It begins to affect your heart. You start feeling distant, disconnected, and unsure of yourself. What once felt simple now feels complicated. What once felt certain now feels fragile. And the more you think, the more everything begins to feel unstable. You begin to question things you never questioned before. You doubt your path, your decisions, and even your purpose. You wonder if you are doing enough, if you are on the right track, or if you have somehow fallen behind. And that constant questioning slowly turns into pressure. That pressure builds quietly. It doesn't always show on the outside, but inside it feels heavy. It feels like you are carrying expectations, your own expectations, the expectations of others, and the fear of not meeting any of them. And so you keep thinking, trying to find reassurance, trying to find certainty, trying to feel in control again. But instead of peace, you feel more overwhelmed. Because overthinking does not give you answers, it gives you noise. And that noise makes it hard to hear what truly matters. It drowns out your inner peace. It drowns out your clarity. And most importantly, it drowns out the quiet guidance that God is placing in your life. Sometimes the reason you feel so lost is not because there is no direction. It is because there is too much noise. Your mind is so full of questions, fears, and doubts that there is no room left for stillness. And without stillness, It becomes difficult to recognize the path that is already in front of you. That is why silence is powerful. Not silence from the world, but silence within yourself. A moment where you stop analyzing everything. A moment where you stop searching for answers. A moment where you simply breathe and allow your mind to rest. Because in that silence, something begins to shift. You start to feel a sense of calm that was not there before. You start to notice that not everything needs to be solved right now. You begin to understand that clarity does not always come from thinking more. It often comes from thinking less. And in that quiet space, faith begins to grow. Faith does not need constant reassurance. It does not need every answer. It simply trusts. It trusts that God knows what He is doing. It trusts that the path is unfolding the way it is meant to. It trusts that even when things feel uncertain, there is still a purpose behind it all. And when you begin to trust like that, something inside you becomes stronger. You no longer feel the need to question everything. You no longer feel the need to control every detail. You no longer feel the same pressure to have everything figured out. Because now you understand something deeper. You are not alone in this journey. God is walking with you, even in the moments when you feel lost. He is guiding you, even when you cannot see the direction clearly. He is working in your life, even when nothing seems to be changing.